Today I'm talking to Josh Behr of the Behr team of Sotheby's International Realty in Denver, Colorado. Josh is the top agent with the top team in Denver, Colorado for 10 years and counting. He talks about how he closes over $100 million a year with Linda Behr, his business partner and mom, and 2 administrative assistants. Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. This podcast is to share knowledge for realtors and raise awareness for Give Back Homes, where real estate professionals work together for social good. Jet Centers Aviation, Bentley Atlanta, Legends Global, thank you for your sponsorship. All right, everybody, it's the Jere Metcalf podcast where top real estate agents tell how they do it. Today, I am really excited to have Josh Behr with the Behr team out of Denver, Colorado with Sotheby's International Realty. He runs this team with Linda Behr, and they are the #1 team in Denver for about a decade. So, Josh, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you, Jere. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. It's fantastic.
And tell us, I'd love to start by give us a little bit about your story and how, I know you've got a lot of commercial background in real estate that helps your level of competence with clients, but tell us a little bit about that and how you got into the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So my background is kind of in that commercial real estate consulting feasibility side of the business. So it's a slightly different asset type, but really the tenants remain the same in my background, meaning that you approach a project, you have a high level of competency, both, in terms of what you need to bring to the table as well as with your clientele. Mm-hmm. And that's translated to being able to have a conversation with people in this market, in Denver especially, with there being so much new construction occurring, as well as a real strong level of in-migration of companies. You've got to be able to have that conversation that they understand and they're adept to having in their business life. So that background for me has been it's enabled me to have that smooth transition.
I think
into this current market.
And to elaborate for our listeners, I think what you mean by that is just on understanding investments and numbers and return on investments and why you pay a price for a lot and what that has to do with the cost to build. I'm assuming it's that kind of competency that you're talking about.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about in today's day and age, the dissemination of information is at such a higher level than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. The information is so readily available that the average person you're speaking with knows a market, knows sales, knows what's occurred, let alone somebody who's coming in to run a company or do a large scale development. So you have to be able to translate and add value to these people that already have all this information. So kind of gone is the day of, this little neighborhood realtor that, knows the little community.
Right.
It's much more of a destination spot than it used to be. So that's what I mean about sort of the depth of knowledge and being able to relay that.
Well, all of us real estate agents, whatever market we're in, they have our clients and prospective clients have access to so much information, but it's the ability to put that information into context and perspective. So that
exactly.
they actually they can know it too much and they could be dangerous to themselves. And I don't mean that to be condescending, but we all can when we don't know how to put the information into context. So
that's right. And they're looking for an expert to add to that information that everybody already has, context and color. And so that's one angle that our team really focuses on.
So tell us a little bit about your team. You guys are #1. We were talking earlier, but so there are two agents on the team, and
correct. Yeah.
You guys together are doing. Yeah, I wish we'd saved it for the show, but my reaction was like, oh my God. But give us your numbers on the number of transactions, because this is going to be just really compelling for everybody to listen to you on your level of activity. So the number of transactions, average sales price, all that good stuff.
Yep, absolutely. So last year, there are 2 producers. It's actually my mom and I. She's been in the business forever, and she kind of focuses on a certain segment of the market. She does about 20 to 25 transactions a year. And then supporting us, we have 2 assistants. But last year we were fortunate to be able to do just over 141 million in volume. And,
huge.
That was
Between two people.
Between two people. And that we had credited for just about 90 transactions. I referred out a bunch of deals. And so we were involved in just over 100. But the way that the numbers are kept, I think we were credited for like 88 or 89 transactions. So it was a big year. It was a great year.
That's huge. So we're talking $100 million between two people. Congratulations. So I just wanted
Thank you.
And your average sales price is about 1.2. Your mom's average sales price is around 2 million. And as a team,
right.
Your average sales price is about 1.6 million. Just to put in
Correct.
perspective to everybody who we're talking to. And that's huge. So we want to listen closely to everything you have to say about how you conduct your business. Question number one I have for you is, in your market, how do you, you've already stated a little bit, but you've got, in Denver, I would bet that for every house that sells, there's at least one person with a real estate license. So in that kind of market, how are you competitive and successful, and how do you differentiate yourself from the other real estate agents so that you are doing that kind of business and that intense number of transactions a year?
Yeah, really our focus has been, and if you kind of take a step back as an agent, the question you have to ask yourself is exactly what you just said, which is how do you add value and not only justify or differentiate yourself, but justify, kind of what you're compensated. And,
Mm-hmm.
On these transactions over the course of 141 million, there's a lot of compensation that goes around. So you're able to, say to yourself, well, how do I bring this value to people? And these are people that are very intelligent. They're here, running companies, or they're corporate attorneys or doctors or whatever it happens to be. They're adept enough to say, okay, what are you going to do for your 6% fee or 7% fee or whatever it is? And what we focused on is really making this, in this market, there's this philosophy in, some of the online, the Zillows, the Redfins, we're going to make this easier for you. But they really don't do that. They're not, at least not in Denver. They're not taking people's challenges of, hey, juggling life and house and move and all these things and making that process streamlined and easy. So we've really focused on that white glove level of service to our clientele, but also incorporating on the other side is, with all the information, as we've talked about, that is readily available to everybody, how do you really manipulate that in someone's favor, whether it's your buyer or seller? How do you have a conversation with somebody and intelligently present that information to the market? So it's really that balance that provides that white glove level of service to our clientele in conjunction with a master knowledge of all this information and really twisting and turning and angling it towards your clients in their favor. Just philosophically, that's what we've done on our team.
It's really,
and continue to do.
It's like the best customer service, number one, and the best market knowledge that they're not going to have access to anywhere else they go. And
exactly.
That pretty much puts you guys at the top. And you've had your time in that market, and you just continue to consistently deliver. A question I have is, how do you handle, like you guys did what? I've forgotten the number already. You did 70-something transactions, but you're talking about around 100 transactions a year between two people. How do you streamline to do that?
Truthfully, that's our continued sort of challenge. And I'll be honest, we have the most amazing 2 assistants team. They're supporting us in the office. So the line in the sand that we've really drawn is we've got our staff that is managing all the details. And, full disclosure, we're in the process of hiring 2 people to our team, another staff person and then a junior broker. Because really what we want to do is we want to, A, have lives, and then B, grow that number. And,
Exactly.
Not necessarily in that order, but, that's really our 2 goals for 2018. So, it has its challenges for sure, but, it's a process where, because of the areas that we work in kind of supply constrained Denver,
mm-hmm.
We were able to manage a lot of these deals and they touch one another, meaning we might have both sides of the transaction a quarter to a third of the time, whereas most brokers in this market do it about 10% of the time.
Exactly.
So, it's having the great inventory, pricing it well, having that depth of knowledge where you can, pair everybody up together. We're able to just, I think, be more efficient than most brokers
Well, and I'll tell you something I find interesting about this business that I forget is that I think that you probably, and I tend to focus on making transactions happen, bringing value, and making deals. And I've found you find a lot of real estate agents are just focused on being hired. Hire me to be your buyer's agent, hire me to be your listing agent. I'm like, oh, we've already got this deal together. Like, yeah, I'm hired because I've got the deal, and you just bring the value and the transaction happens, as opposed, which I already hear you, and I think that has a lot to do with doing both sides of such a high percentage of your deals. But I think that's a good lesson there's so many people so focused in our business on just getting hired, and the value's there. You just deliver it, and the job, you're hired.
Yeah.
So I would love to know too, like, just real quick on the breakdown of your team, because I'm so fascinated with the level. You hear a lot of teams doing a high level production like that, but it's usually not luxury, and it's usually not such a good price point. It's usually like, average $200,000 deal. They're streamlining that way. Your administrative part of your team, are they allocated different roles, or do they share, or how do you allocate what they do?
Yeah, so we've really toyed with this a lot for the last 10 years. And so the structure for our team, I believe in building a team around great people rather than building a team and then finding great people. And so knowing that, what's worked for us with our team, and again, it's full disclosure, we've with different people, we've toyed with this structure. But today, what's really kicking ass there is we've got one amazing assistant who's been in the business for 25 years, and she focuses on everything from contract to close. So everything having to do with servicing of deals. And she's, if you look at her kind of disc profile and her personality, which we've really become students of, and with the help of Liz Bentley and some other consultants we've worked with. So she really manages.
Shout out to Liz Bentley, by the way. She's awesome. But go ahead.
She is awesome. And we've been super pleased with her. But Anita runs everything from contract to close. Michelle, who's kind of our pre-listing, pre-buyer, and our marketing director, runs those kind of three general facets of our business. And so right now, again, the balance is good. I think that obviously there's fits and spurts at different sides, which can inundate one or the other, which is part of the reason why we want to hire that third sort of more executive assistant role. But it's been a solid breakdown.
No, that's awesome. So I've got a lot of selfish questions here on how you do it, because it's similar to how I'm laid out. But I'm sure everybody listening will appreciate this, because if I have the questions, everybody else does too. But on your administrative roles, how much interaction do they have with the clients, and how much do they take over that to help you with time, and how much are they behind the scenes really just in the office, and how much of their work is licensed and unlicensed?
Yeah, so not a lot of their work is what I would call kind of licensed work. They're not negotiating any deals. They're not quoting prices. They're not really doing any, frankly, of that. And again, that's part of why I want to hire a junior broker to be able to take on some of those things, because I know I'm missing deals. We just are. But their business, they do, to answer your question, they focus a lot on, kind of the client-facing role. So frankly, the more I can step out of the deal once I've struck the deal. So my goal is really to generate the business and close the deal. And then I want to exit from the transaction as much as possible. Because the more I'm in it, the more people are relying on me, meaning the less they're relying on them. And I firmly believe, I use the analogy, and I'm going to have to get a new one if our team grows, but like a really beautiful four-wheel drive vehicle that has each tire spinning independently and yet working all in unison. Exactly. Is really the analogy I've used for our team, meaning that everybody has to have their own job and not necessarily be coached or relied on to direct them towards me. I need them just to do it themselves. And then our clients really grow to understand that and expect it. And it's worked really well.
Expect and appreciate it, as opposed to the opposite. Because I think we all challenge with making sure our clients understand where our value is and what they're getting out of us, and where it's actually more valuable to have the team members stepping in and doing things that they actually are probably better at. Would you agree with that?
100%. And I also think the other side of it, kind of working off what you just said, is the team, the staff actually appreciates that. And, our team members, as they're referred to, they really, if we put on them this responsibility and then give them credit both in front of clients and, sort of in year-end bonus situations, they appreciate it. And, the responsibility falls on their shoulders. I find they really rise to the occasion when you have the right person, and then we reward them graciously.
Exactly. Well said. So what do you find, or what are you most excited about in your business? Actually, let me rephrase that. What in your business so far, what success are you most proud of? I want to know that first.
Yeah, I mean, that's a probably tougher question, I would say, for me than the second or the precursor to that. But I mean, I think that the balance on our team and really taking a business that inherently, I mean, you said it well, everyone in Denver, it seems, has a real estate license. And if they don't have one, then a brother, cousin, aunt, uncle, it doesn't matter, friend.
All the relatives have one. Right.
Exactly. So I think being able to, in that environment, differentiate ourselves and really foster and create and grow a business within that situation, that scenario, and be able to do it year in and year out is probably what I'm most proud of thus far. And then as a follow-up to that, what we're most excited about, and really what I'm most excited about, is growing myself as a manager. It's something that I've never, it's never been the strength of me and my personality. So how do I grow as an employee, a leader, a manager, whatever, and further our team and take some people underneath us and, instead of doing 140 million, let's do 200 million. And that's really our goal. I pretty much just want to be like Greg Lynn and, do exactly
Shout
what he
out
does.
to Greg Lynn. Yeah.
Exactly.
Greg's awesome. Yeah.
He is awesome.
Well, he's good. I don't know what his date is, but he's he's on the show too. We're excited about that. But no, he's sure. Such a huge success and such a great, nice guy. So what do you find has been your biggest aha in this business?
I think the number one aha that I've discovered in it, it's not like, frankly, overly insightful, but we all need to be coached. And what I mean by that is, and it's something I've really sunk my teeth into in the last probably 2 years, and that is, how can you be a constant student, a perpetual student, and continually learn? I learned from you, Jerry, being able to learn from our peers, learn from amazing business coaches and consultants, learn from books. I mean, whatever it happens to be, it's not that you need to throw the baby out with the bathwater and change what you're doing, but to take little bits here and there and learn from those things and adapt those things, those aspects to your market and to your business has probably been my biggest aha that I've had and continue to have.
That's kind of what I love about this business. And that your answer to that question is a great lead into my next question for you, which is, in this business, I find that we are big problem solvers. That's why we're so valuable to transactions, despite the Zillows and the Redfins efforts to prove to the world otherwise. And I think they're kind of coming back and realizing we're going to work together. But anyway, maybe. But my question to you is, going back, like looking at your business, obviously we are presented lots and lots of problems and learn lots of lessons and overcome a lot of things. What is a big one for you that you have overcome, or a big lesson learned that you would want to share with our listeners? And me, I really want to know.
Yeah. What's interesting is the lesson I'm constantly reminded of is, it kind of brings me back to the very first thing you asked, which is, in essence, I'm paraphrasing, how do you provide this level of service that enables us to get hired, sort of time in and time out, year in and year out. And that is, and it's going to sound overly simplistic, but it's communication. And so what I mean by that is, regardless of who your client is, whether it's a CEO moving here from another state, or it's a whole company that's moving in and we're trying to, ease this transition for them, or it's, your neighbor selling his or her own house and moving for schools, or whatever it happens to be, everyone is wrapped up in, am I doing this right? Am I overpaying in this market? There's a fever pitch in Denver. So how do I make sure that everything is justified? And how did I not leave money on the table? I mean, it's both sides of the same argument every single time. Mm-hmm. And the solution that I've found, and what I'm constantly reminded of, is how do we sharpen our saw there and have exceptional communication? And to me, that means if anybody's come to me and is asking a question I should have already answered, that is an aha. That is a wake up. It means that something within our process, within my team, is not functioning at the level it should. And sort of preempting this, you sort of use the analogy, and the reason I say white glove service, you stay at a beautiful hotel, and if they anticipate every single need, you are ecstatic. You feel satisfied. You just refer everybody to that. It's the same service-based system that we're focusing in on our team to make sure that we're providing that preemptive communication to our clients.
Exactly. So I'm going to get really basic here. A great example, this is so basic. It was one of the Ritz-Carlton speakers at one of the Sotheby's conventions, talked about, at Ritz-Carlton, if they see a kid eating ice cream or they see someone eating ice cream, they immediately get a napkin and bring it over before you need it, because that's what's going to happen when you're eating ice cream. So it's those. Do you have any examples for us that you can share? There's so many in real estate on some of the things that you guys do when somebody's selling their house that you're anticipating their needs for that white glove service.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, again, the scenarios are abound, but I mean, in this market, something we're seeing specifically is construction is a nightmare, meaning that costs are through the roof. Great contractors are impossible to find. And so, it's everything from, when we're prepping a listing, for example, and we're, getting things in order and ready to roll. I mean, it's lining everybody up. It's being able to make a few phone calls and have people there within hours that would otherwise take days or weeks for a client to do. It's taking all of these things off someone's plate. Is a good example recently is I sold a lot last week. It closed on the deal, and went under contract 2 weeks before. We'd been working on it, pre-market for about a month. And, this was a scenario where her ex-husband had died. And it was kind of it was a long time coming, but he had passed away and she lived out of state. So we literally took the entire scenario over for her and made sure everything was buttoned up, ready to go, to the point where we went on market. She did exactly what we asked we needed of her. It sold within 2 days, 12% over ask. And, this is $1 million, 150 lot on a little teeny site in Denver. And we were able to not only get it done, but get it done well and quickly and for a really strong number. And that's kind of what I mean. It's like Bobby Stuckey, the owner of Frasca, someone that I emulated here. He's got an amazing restaurant in Boulder. And he talks about this. It's preempting. It's like the napkin analogy you used. It's the same scenario here. And we cater each scenario to a specific client. And I think that's what's important, is not let's have this one-size-fits-all model, but what does this specific client need? How do we solve those problems? And then how do you have exceptional follow-through and communication during the process? And
I would assume the administrative team helps a lot with that, or do they help you do that, or they just hold you accountable to that?
No, they help me do it. I mean, again, I think at the core of everything, the wheels fall off the bus if you don't have an incredible team supporting you. And, to me, empowering them, holding them accountable, them holding me accountable, and then giving them, again, accolades and kudos and whatever that person needs based on their personality profile, I think is just at the core of that success.
Exactly. So well said. So what do you wish you knew a lot coming into this business, being that your mom had been in it before you. So what were you thinking? I'm kidding. What do you wish you knew now? What do you wish you knew then that you know now coming into this business?
I think that, let's think about that for a minute. I mean, keep in mind, when I got into business, it was February of 2008.
Oh, so, wow. So the recession and you knew it. By 2008, we all knew it was here.
It was definitely, the writing was on the wall that that everything was changing.
Yeah.
And so I think that, I sort of muddled my way through the first couple, 3-4 years. Mm-hmm. I think what's interesting is, the way that Denver's evolved and changed. So again, I think I referenced sort of and I say this in jest, I say it a lot, which is these neighborhood brokers I think if I knew now, or knew then rather, what I know now, which is that Denver's sort of going to graduate to this sort of next tier of city, I probably would have stayed in front of new construction a little quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've been working in that space in earnest for probably 3 years. And I probably would have started before that. But, to be honest, we really try to be malleable and adjust quickly. And I think that depends upon your market and what's happening there. And we all know at some point in time, it's going to slow down.
And
so how do you stay in front of that?
Tell us a little, go ahead. Yeah, but tell us a little bit about because we were talking about this before we started the interview. I'd love for you to share with everybody a little bit about, because I was asking, you do a lot of new construction. And I remember we met a little over a year ago, it was kind of the same. Did you get into that by land transactions or do you find the land and then they hire you, or do they hire you first, and when do they hire you? Give us a little walkthrough on how that works.
Yeah, so I've approached that side of the business from a couple different angles, from sort of the investor angle and then the builder angle, and then, to a lesser degree, but, and separate from investors are more just strict developers. And so, and the distinction there that I'll make between investors and developers are investors that I work with typically take a more passive role. So I've been working with them, with investors for, 10 years, really since the beginning. They're people that I called on and I was constantly in front of in the very beginning. Builders in earnest, I probably started working with builders. And when I say in earnest, I mean to the tune of 20 or 30 transactions a year. I work with builders, and I started that about 3 years ago. And that was me just getting in front of builders, and these are speculative builders, and how do we essentially solve for, again, going back to that white glove level of service, what is sort of happening in their business. And one specific builder I work with, really the challenge for them was finding the right dirt, but also designing the right asset for that specific location. And sort of, again, bringing that depth of knowledge. So each one we sort of solve for it differently. And the developer side of it, we've sort of scratched the surface. That's something we're really working in earnest on in 2018, because condos are coming back to the market. So again, talking about being malleable and quick and sort of on your toes, I think that those people specifically, it's similar to the builder route, but it's on a bigger scale. It's 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 units plus, and making sure that A, we're the right fit, B, they're motivated sellers, because you don't want to take on a deal like that and then have it be the wrong scenario, and then you realize in 6 or 12 months that, shoot, that was a waste of time and money. Mm-hmm. So, we've really approached it from all three of those angles, and that last one, the developer route, is really one that we're focusing on right now. It's at the forefront of our business model for this year.
That's great. It sounds like you guys, so a lot of builders, now as the developments get bigger, this changes, and you're doing some pretty big developments, but if you find the land, you get the listing. And it sounds like you've done a few of those, but also because of you guys are top agents in Denver, you've got a lot of history in Denver, you have a lot of builders because of your history, your reputation, your level of expertise, and Josh, your ability to communicate with them on a much more sophisticated, educated level as far as numbers, investments, and the know-how and history on design. You're winning a lot of builders after the site is selected and built and determined, but before the design of the house is done, because that's where you guys can kind of come in early and help a builder through that. Is that correct?
Absolutely, Jerry. Yeah, I mean, I think that the angle that I take, I think is in my opinion, a little bit more effective than just going to find a lot for a specific builder, because then it feels a lot like I'm sort of wasting my time.
Obligation.
Yeah, I'm trying to bird dog this one deal, and it can take, in this market, I mean, I just had a deal I put together last week that had 11 offers, 40 showings in 2.5 days. And it just like, to compete in that is, to me, that's a low, pay per hour kind of scenario. And
it's more like buying a lottery ticket than a.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas if you can say, hey, look, on this design piece for these 10 units, 20 units, 50 units, whatever happens to be, I'm going to guide you through this process. Just sign this listing agreement. We're going to get going. And you can sell them on that. To me, that's a much more effective use of your time.
And theirs, because you're delivering value. when someone's hiring you out of obligation because you found the lot, they're going to question the entire time if they hired the right agent because they know they hired them out of obligation, as opposed to finding the right agent and having the skill set to just win the business and do a good job and make more money in the long run.
That's exactly right.
That's awesome. So I want to run through this is kind of tapping into your team again and your systems. We've learned a lot about the people and how you've lined that up, and how I think what's great and refreshing in these interviews is the better the agent, the more willing they are to admit they're just figuring it out. It's like it's always like, well, we don't really know yet. We're still figuring that out. And like, okay, you're at the top and you're still figuring out. That's great. But that being said, what is we've got the people down. As far as your systems and your tools, what do you find might be your favorite, most effective tool for your business or your team, whether it's a CRM or a program, app, website, whatever that might be? Not the phone. I always say this because that's kind of everybody's outside of your cell phone.
Yep. Yeah. So it's funny you say that on two fronts, because we're actually rolling out a CRM literally right now.
Oh, cool.
And we've never had a great CRM in place that's really worked for our team. And I mean, we've dabbled in Salesforce, we've dabbled in, Act and a number of these other platforms. And, to me, that is by definition us figuring it out right now. And what's funny is I mentioned, I feel like we miss opportunities, we miss deals and things that we really could with the right staffing and the right record keeping, we could be doing a much better job of.
So true. So what's the CRM? You're killing me with anticipation.
So the one that we're focusing on, and we've looked at a lot of them, we looked at Contactually, we've looked at a number of these. The one we're focused on is called RealVolve. It's a smaller startup. And the reason that we're focusing on that one is because it has also a sort of a job flow component. And so, and again, it's a decision. You talk about empowering my staff. I mean, I very much do not want to be the bottleneck on my team. And so I put them to task, and I also did my own research, but put them to task. And independently, we both came up with RealVolve. And I think that, with that, I mean, we're super excited. Now it's just a function of carving out the necessary time and making that investment to finish out the rollout.
RealVolve and Contactually are kind of the two that are. I know Stacey Jones just they were using Contactually for all of Realogics in Seattle. So, and I think RealVolve is it's a little more complicated, but it's very much focused. And I've looked at it. They've got emails pre-written for you. They've got workflows already built where you can just go and tweak them for what your team and your system are. When are y'all rolling that out? Because I can't wait to hear how it goes. And I need the same thing. And we've got some pretty cool stuff on our team, but that RealVolve is interesting. I've got Contactually and I'm loving it, but I'm just using I'm using it for, it's just a fun, easy, it reads your emails, it tells you what to do. It just kind of keeps you on your leads, but I have a whole nother spreadsheet I built myself for my team for the workflow component. Contactually is just keeping me on top of following up. But that's where RealVolve is interesting. So what is a book that you would recommend we read? Like the one book that you recommend?
Yeah, I think that it's funny. I'm always reading like 6 books at once. And I think that something.
And do you finish all of them? Because I do the same thing. I just don't finish. I finish one. But go ahead.
I usually get 3/4 of the way through and then move on.
Exactly.
Yeah, a cat with a ball of string. But, something that I've really been focusing on within the last 2 years, and I think it's relevant in today's day and age insofar as there's so much distraction, so much technology, so many places you can sort of like jump around and really, again, in the same vein, get distracted. And it's kind of a fascinating book, and that is, it's kind of on mindfulness and staying present and really, how do you keep coming back to that center point? You think about when you're with a client, when you're with your family, friends, clients, whatever it happens to be, how do you stay within that space only? And
liking this,
If you've ever had somebody do that to you, there's no better feeling. You're completely tapped into that person. And again, I think it allows you to provide an exceptionally high level of service for those people because they know that you're there and present. And it's It's a book by Dan Harris called 10% Happier.
Oh, I love
And
it. Okay.
it's kind of a
That's my next
fascinating
read.
book on sort of meditation and mindfulness and in a world of distraction and, things sort of pulling you in all sorts of directions. So that's one I'm reading right now that I think is very interesting.
Oh, 10% happier. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Check it out.
Especially in our business. It's so easy to
Completely.
you want to be in 20 places at once, which puts you nowhere. Whereas
That's exactly
you can
right.
only do one thing at a time. You've just got to do one thing at a time, and being present is making you like 10% happier. How about 100% happier?
There you go.
That's,
Well, you should read it. I'll bring you a copy when I see you next time.
That's awesome. So is there anything else you want to add that you would want to share with us about your ahas or your lessons learned in this business, things you've gone through that seemed like they were a challenge, and on the backside of that you're like, wow, that's something.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think something that is very relevant to me is growing my team. And as you well know, it's something I've talked about last year, and it's, really been a challenge for me to basically, again, be that student of, who I am as well as who these other people are on my team. And at some point in time, let go. With my staff, it's been easy because they're amazing. But really, in 2018, the aha that I made, frankly, almost a year ago, was Greg Lynn said to me when I saw him, he said, just let go and just make this hire and get after it and you'll figure it out. And I think that I like to emulate people like that, people like you. You guys have a great team and you're cranking away in your market. And I think that with all that being said, I think that I need to be able to let go of some of the reins, continue to kind of get out of everyone's way, make these hires. And I think that that's been an aha for me over the last 6 months, was just to change my mindset, understand that, it's going to have its own hurdles and challenges, but there's going to be so much fruit that'll be born from that. And
keep moving.
It's probably what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, keep moving forward. Growth. Keep growing in our business and in who we are, because they're both one and the same. And what is the one thing that you want, and you may have just said it, but if there's one thing you want us to take away from this interview, what would that be?
Again, I did say it in the beginning, and it's something that I've been, I've really, again, sunk my teeth into a little bit, but being this perpetual student, like you asked the great question of, what book are you reading? It's something I ask people all the time, people that I emulate, people that, are sort of my mentors. It's how do you continually be this student of yourself, of business, of, your social setting, your religion, your spirit, your whatever it happens to be. How do you make sure that you're constantly improving? And I think that, that's something that is a takeaway that I've had and, something that I really want to continue doing moving forward and have people around me that I know and trust and like that can keep me honest there. And I think that social interaction is just vital.
Yeah, and who you're around is what is the saying about the 5 people you spend most of your time around?
That's right. You become those
true.
people.
Yeah,
exactly.
So true. Huge. Josh, thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Jere, this has been amazing. Thank you for having me.